Blue Jays top prospects on the call up today. He's Jack McMullen. I'm Aram Layton. We are going to be talking about a fair amount of pitching, which is ironic because the Blue Jays have had most of their pitchers get hurt over the last couple years, but some guys coming back from injury, and they have not been afraid to continue to draft arms, two of which just got promoted to high A. So it's a great time to check in with them, Trey Yesavage, Khal Stephen. But this system was a fascinating one for me, Jack, because it's tempered off, like it's slowed down. It's been a little bit disappointing because of the Tiedemann injury, because of Orelvis' lack of progression and the detour of the PED suspension. But at the same time, you start to see what they've done arms wise especially in the last draft. I'm excited about those early results. Some guys coming back and getting healthy, and then I think some underrated high floor position players. And it's not a great system by any means, but you can see some big league talent on the way in this top 15.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a little flip of the script when it comes to their top prospects. Arjun Nimmala was an exciting project that ended up on the dev list last year. And we were talking about Orelvis and Tiedemann at this point last year, to your point. And Tiedemann falls off, Orelvis seriously falls off. But Arjun takes a step up, and then they have a couple of draft guys that take a step up. So I'd say it's probably in a similar spot, clearly bottom third of the league in terms of just farm system power. But there are different faces, which makes things intriguing. And guys like Alan Roden have a big league debut under their belt. And Josh Kasevich seems like a high floor guy that's kind of proving that at the AAA level. So you have a bunch of, I think, samples of guys that are either slightly bettering their stock or just new faces to the fold that make this thing a little bit more intriguing. I would still say it's in the 20 to 30 range in terms of farm system power.
No doubt. And that's where you look at it as, okay, the farm system again, isn't great from a ranking or just talent perspective if we're just trying to rank top 30 farm systems. But with where they have started to kind of develop some of their guys, you look at it at a Nimmala and what he's been able to do since basically hitting that dev list. All of a sudden he goes from project, which he still is somewhat of a project in terms of you can still dream on the ceiling, but you feel a lot better about the floor and his chances of at least landing as a big league piece. Then you look at the arms that they've added, Trey Yesavage. I like him a lot. We'll see what the ceiling is, but even just in the early returns, I think you see that you've got a big league arm there. So then you also look at Landon Maroudis finally coming back off of the hybrid elbow surgery. And I think that's another guy that the more he gets to throw is going to look like a high probability big league arm. So then you also see a Roden, who I'm excited to check in on him because I think Blue Jays fans may be a little bit jaded because he had a bad MLB debut. I don't think he is a bad player. I think he's actually going to be a solid piece for them. So being able to check in on that. And then Kasevich is going to be, I think, back in the next couple weeks. And that's a guy that I feel very confident will be able to fill a role at the big league level as soon as this year. So we'll go through all those names. But the one thing I will say that's gotten better about the Blue Jays system too is just the names to watch are a little bit stronger. Yeah. And I think that's a testament to the depth getting a little bit better. So we can just walk it right into the names to watch, which of course is always linked in the episode description and starts with a guy who is throwing the crap out of the ball right now, actually, and could be pitching his way into being in the top 15 in Jerron Watts-Brown.
Yeah, and I think at the end of last year, you could have made the argument that Jerron Watts-Brown was in the top 15. But this system has gotten just a little deeper, and that kind of pushed Watts-Brown out. He's probably in the 16, 17 range in this system. But Jerron Watts-Brown, third-round pick in 2023, he was a guy that flashed a lot of promise in college. They took him. It was a little slow out of the gates, but he really started to find it. But he's an interesting guy, kind of stuff first, and then the pitchability's following.
That's been, I think, a big reason why Watts-Brown has been better this year is the pitchability has been a little bit better, and the breaking balls, he has been landing them for a strike pretty consistently. My concern with him, though, is you have that aspect of he's going to need to be around the zone a ton because of the fact that the fastball gets crushed. It is a just stock fastball that's going to hold him back to a degree. So there's a lot of pressure on being able to locate those breaking balls, which are good. And he has been locating them. It's a 68% strike rate on the slider and a 63% strike rate on the curveball, which is up from last year. But the fastball opponents this year, it's a small sample size, it's 49 plate appearances. but opponents are hitting 390 against it. So again, he's been really good because he is dominating with the breaking balls. But I do wonder at AA, hitters are a little bit more disciplined. They're going to know that it's basically a breaking ball heavy approach here and a fastball that they can hit hard. And they're going to probably dare him to locate that slider and try to eliminate that slider. Are you able to get guys out in those games maybe where that slider isn't landing for a strike more than 2/3 of the time and things like that? That said, it is a huge step in the right direction this year. He's definitely missing a lot of bats, but I think there's a lot of pressure on him to fill up the zone with those secondaries and hit his spots with the fastball because clearly the shape is just not great.
Yep. Next guy is Christopher Polanco, DSL shortstop. He was kind of the fallback in the IFA class this year after the Blue Jays missed out on Roki Sasaki. The Blue Jays, if you forgot, were probably the runner-up in the Roki Sasaki sweepstakes in the IFA market. So they pivoted to a guy in Polanco who just got $2.3 million. Buzzy name, born in 2008. I mean, I can't analyze anyone born in 08.
We've got our first housing crisis prospect. This is crazy. I haven't seen an 08 birthday yet, so I'm still processing that one. But yeah, I don't have a ton on him either. I know there was a lot of buzz about him. I think there's a lot of excitement about like the field to hit from both sides, but I just don't have much. So we'll have to wait and see when he makes his pro debut. The DSL season will get rolling here, and we'll check back in on Polanco. But definitely a guy. I mean, if you have multiple teams that are kind of ready to shell it out, and really the only reason that he gets pushed over here is kind of the Sasaki aspect. And I think it was a priority to pivot and be able to lock him up here. I think there's a lot of excitement around what he can do.
Yohendrick Pinango, floor is yours.
This is the data darling. And I'm never going to fully give up on this guy.
Is he your favorite prospect in baseball? I get more Yohendrick Pinango texts than anybody else, like more than Roman, more than Bubba, like more than all these guys. It's just always Yohendrick Pinango.
Because he's not a top 30 guy like anywhere. And I want him. It's kind of like Ronnie Simon all over again. I know this guy's going to get a big league shot. I don't know what it's going to look like. And the thing with him is he has the tools to actually be a monster offensively. I just don't know if he's going to ever be able to get into it enough. Like he's always had ridiculous batted ball markers. I've talked about it. Like he may have the biggest dichotomy between batted ball data and production of like anybody I've seen in the minor leagues up until this year though. And he's in AA. I think it's his third taste of AA, but he's still only 23 years old for the entirety of the season. He just turned 23 and he's hitting 350, 462, 608. It's a 1070 OPS in AA, 15% walk rate, 20% K rate. He's a 90th percentile exit velocity of 108.5 miles per hour. He chases less than 20% of the time. He already has 7 bombs this year. He swings super hard. And I think that's the other reason why I love watching him is like he does not get cheated when he connects, but the O contact, right? The out of zone contact is better than it's ever been for him. So maybe something clicked a little bit more bat to ball wise, but the contact rates are good this year. So I don't know. The problem with him is everything he hits hard is like a low liner. His average launch angle on hard hit balls is 4 degrees. And I think it was like 2 degrees last year. So it's just like piss missile, like one hoppers through the infield. So yeah, last year his average launch angle on hard hit baseballs was 0.6 degrees. So it's up. But like every degree he can get that up, I think he increases his chances of being able to be productive at the big league level. But I don't know. I think there's just such a ridiculous amount of power here and enough contact where like it might just work to be a bulk platoon guy.
Fire me up. Fernando Perez is the absolute opposite. This guy is the antithesis of a data darling. Fernando Perez is a guy that is probably a 5 starter and is a depth AAA starting pitcher, but he's a good depth AAA starting pitcher. This guy in high A is just massaging his way through lineups right now with a fastball that's about 91, 92 and a bunch of secondaries.
Yeah, it's just a ridiculous ability to fill up the zone. It's 72% strike rate on the season. What's interesting is opponents are hitting 295 against him. Not great, but they're only slugging 352. So like he's going to yield a lot of contact. And the question just then becomes, can he keep the ball in the yard? Can he limit damage? And he has, right? No home runs, only 6 doubles. so far this season. That might be harder to do in Double-A, and that's why I think some other outlets had him in the top 15. I'm just a little skeptical about whether he's going to be able to miss enough bats at more challenging levels because nothing really jumps off the page fastball shape-wise, but he does just seem to hit his spots well enough with it. And then the changeup is by far his best pitch, and I think it's the fastball changeup combination that really gets working for him, but I'm a little skeptical on the slider and the cutter. So from that perspective, it's like if you're fastball changeup heavy and you're around the zone a lot, it's going to be hard to miss enough bats. So that's why I do see a little bit more of maybe the depth arm than a 5-starter, but he's 21. Doesn't turn 22 until February. So if he sees his velocity tick up even just one tick, I think you could start to see maybe that just innings eating 5-starter that could potentially be in there, especially if he finds a little bit more feel to spin it.
We were fired up about Charles McAdoo, and at the trade deadline, this guy was clearly a top 10 prospect in this organization, and now he's a name to watch. And the question now becomes Pirate Merchant? Like since he came over to the Blue Jays organization, McAdoo has really struggled.
Yeah.
Charles McAdoo last year, 60 games with high A Greensboro with the Pirates, a 975 OPS, he hit 336. Got the bump to Double-A Altoona, hit 270 with an 840 OPS in 27 games before the trade for Isaiah Connor-Falefa. Then 37 games with New Hampshire last year, hit a $185 with a 610 OPS. And this year in his first 33 games, hitting 193 with a 533 OPS. And the strikeout bug has bit him bad.
Mm-hmm.
What's going on?
It's weird because even when you look at like what he was doing in like Altoona, I think before getting traded to Toronto, he was swinging it well in Altoona. He wasn't striking out a ton either. And I don't care about the environment, because we talk about maybe it's a little bit more hitter friendly in Altoona. I'm just talking about whiff and chase. Right after the trade, his chase went up 5%. His whiff went up like 7%. It's interesting. I don't know if there was just something that kind of threw him out of kilter there. And
there's no reason to be pressing. Like you were just traded for a legit big leaguer in IKF 1-for-1
in a breakout season, and that's the thing. He kind of came out of nowhere, right? I mean, this was a 13th rounder that looked like a great find by the Pirates, which is kind of rare on the offensive front. And I don't really know. Maybe it was just if we had a larger sample size of Double-A, that would have happened anyways, right? Because it was only like 20 games in Double-A in Altoona before then he went over to New Hampshire. But at the same time, this is still an intriguing prospect and a guy that has huge power potential. He hits the ball in the air. He hits it really hard. It's easy plus EVs. So if he can kind of recapture what he had last year, I think this is a guy that can mash enough to, play a little bit of third and first base, but he's got to figure out kind of what's resulting in him just looking so sped up against velocity right now, because that's the big thing is he just looks rushed at the plate.
Interesting. Ryan Jennings is a guy that rushes a lot of other people.
Yeah.
Ryan Jennings, 26 years old at the end of June, but really isn't that old in terms of pitching. He's been limited to fewer than 120 innings in his pro career. And Ryan Jennings recently made the move from starting pitcher / swingman to a full-blown bullpen arm. And the fastball's ticked up to the mid to high 90s, and the slider is good too. It's just that classic fastball slider combination that could probably make him a 7th inning guy for the Blue Jays by the end of this year.
Yeah. And I mean, they need those guys, right? I mean, even some of the recent relief prospects that looked good a couple years ago, or even like early going into last year, just didn't have great years. And I think for Jennings, he looks like that next guy that could be emerging. And you look at what he's done over the last 7 games in between Double-A and just recently got promoted to Triple-A. They're using him in that multi-inning role where he actually threw 3 1/3 innings and like a piggyback role and going from the 4th into the 7th. And he held his velo. It was scoreless ball and he struck out 4. But then, the last few outings, he's been going 1 inning at a time, but he could be this kind of Swiss Army knife bridge guy for you, but the stuff could be good enough to pitch at leverage as well. He's got to cut that walk rate down from 15%, but that might just naturally cut down more when they pitch him 1 inning at a time if they decide to go that route too. So it is probably a little bit of a product of them stretching him out. But I think it's nice to just know that you have a guy that can go multi-innings if you need.
Yeah. A couple more guys. Barafin? What is it?
I think it's Barafin.
Jace Barafin, okay, outfielder with Double-A New Hampshire. Jace Barafin breakout campaign at the University of Arkansas in 2023. He was not great in college baseball. It included a transfer, and then he was awesome for Arkansas in 23. Blue Jays took a chance, 6th round. What he has proven over the last full season and so far this year is that the power is here to stay.
Mhm.
Like he had a power breakout. He's
Mhm.
clearly powerful. He screams bench corner outfielder that can hit some homers off the bench.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what you're looking at there. Left-handed bat off the bench that can just run into a homer, when you need one. And it's interesting though because he does have reverse splits, and that does kind of make it a more of a maybe bench guy than a platoon guy at that point. But that's still fine because I think just the power is immense enough to justify the roster spot, and he has a pretty good approach. But there's a fair amount of whiff, especially in the zone. Secondaries are going to give him trouble. So he does kind of seem like that plug and play power guy off the bench. I agree with you.
Yep. And then last but not least, Brandon Barrera. Man, like it's just unfortunate. First round pick in 2022. This guy tore his UCL. He's probably out until what, All-Star break this year?
Yeah, I think so. And I'm hoping that it was just kind of one of those situations where, because if you go through the injury, like I guess like chronology, it was a delayed start to his pro career because of a shoulder issue. Then he makes a couple starts, and then he's on the IL with an elbow sprain. Then he makes a couple starts, and then he's on the IL again. Then he comes back in 2024 and tears his UCL after one start. It sounds like his arm was heading in that direction, and they were just trying to kind of put the Band-Aid on it and throw through it. I'm hoping that it was one issue that was just barking in different ways than, an assortment of different things that are going to hold him back, long term. I also think it's interesting, some of the things that I've just kind of heard about, and you can remember even seeing Barrera, like I think the Blue Jays encouraged him to put on more mass, and then they encouraged him to take that mass off. And like, I think there was a lot of just kind of back and forth and like changing to his body, which can't be great for a 20-year-old lefty, 19, 20-year-old lefty. And I imagine it was just Blue Jays were watching guys drop like flies throughout the org, and they're trying to preserve this guy. But, I think hey, bulk up, hey, slim down. Like, I don't think those things are great for a guy that, also did. And I don't know if there was injury aspects to that as well, but his senior season of high school, he said, I'm not going to throw the rest of the year. And I struggle to believe that he just opted out of an abundance of caution. I wonder if something was barking at him a little bit then, and they're making the best decision for his career, and it just kind of spilled over into professional baseball. So hopefully he can kind of get himself right and get healthy, because the velo difference was crazy, right? When we look at the end of the year in 2023, he was averaging 91, 92. This is a guy that's been up to 98 in bullpens when he's healthy.
Yeah. There are some extreme higher profile examples of guys that like have fluctuated weight on the mound, and it just doesn't really result in good things. Like the one, and of course, there was some bad weight attached to it. Like CC Sabathia, right? He dropped a bunch of pounds and then he was struggling. So he put it back on. Jabba Chamberlain, same deal. But the one where the one as it pertains to good weight that jumps out to me recently is our guy, Walker Buehler, right? Buehler came back from Tommy John surgery. He was, I said a brick shithouse. Like he was jacked, and he said, mass times acceleration, like this is a thing. So he put on mass, and all of a sudden, like he had a couple of things barking at him. Like it was a hip thing for a little bit, and then it was something else. And he kind of shut it down and said, I got to drop the pounds. I got to get back to my normal throw. So I'm wondering if Barrera, went maybe too far in the bulking direction and now is trying to like find his normal throw again.
Yeah. And I think that's where this Tommy John stretch and returning from that, I think he may have got the hybrid, if I'm not mistaken, but I think this will give him time to get right across the board too. And I have some cautious optimism that the year and change off can kind of help him have a better plan of attack and get everything right. And we'll see. But I mean, talent is definitely not a question. But I love that you mentioned that with Walker and even some other guys. Like, yes, it is nice to have that mask going behind you at points. But if your body's not totally used to that, it's like, imagine trying to pitch with like a 10 15-pound backpack on. Like, I know that may not be the same weight distribution, but think about all the things that you do when you're winding up. You're stacking up on that hip. You're pushing off of it. Those extra pounds are things that your body's not totally used to, and different parts of the body will compensate.
For sure.
We'll get to number 15, which is Adam Macko in a moment. Before that, our first break. All right. Another guy that's long been one of my just favorite under the radar guys, Adam Macko, has also dealt with injuries, but you can't blame the Blue Jays for this one. He has had those issues going back to his time in Seattle. And I was making a case for Macko, I believe late in 2022, because of how good he looked when the velo ticked up, where we've seen him operate 91 to 93, but at the end of the year in 2023, his velo was up to more 94, 95, and he was utterly dominant in his final 4 starts at the high A level, where he threw 20 innings of 1 earned run ball and 31 strikeouts. He came back in 2024 and dealt with a little bit of ailments there, but still was able to throw a fair amount of innings. But the velo was kind of back down to the 91 to 93 range. And I think it changed things for him some. He got a late start to this year due to injury, but has made 2 appearances at the complex and has looked sharp there. And I think should be probably rejoining the I would imagine the AAA club at some point soon. I like the stuff. Like the fastball looks like it could be big league average from the left side, maybe even a little bit better than that. The curveball looks solid. The slider is probably his potentially best pitch now. We'll see how that continues to develop, but I did really like the curveball before that. And then the changeup is a decent 4th offering. The command's kind of the big thing there. If the command's average, I could see a 5-starter. If the command's not, it's probably another depth guy. But as a left-hander, I just think there's a little bit more to dream on here, and there's definitely a feel to spin it. And we've seen flashes of him when the velo's up looking comfortably like a 5-starter. So it's just difficult to assess him because when he's 93, 94, I see no doubt a 5-starter. When he's 92 or 91 to 93, I could see it, but there's more importance placed on that spin.
There's less electricity coming out of his arm, but when you watch the delivery, do you see another prospect that might have just graduated?
When I watch the delivery,
when you watch the delivery in the American League Central, do you see another prospect that might have just graduated a little bit?
In the American League Central, a left-hander,
righty.
Oh,
I know it's really hard.
I'm not good at flipping it. I can do it with hitters. It's like
Hunter Brown
you
throws
say to
like
me.
McClanahan. You just could not wrap your head around that. Adam Macko's delivery is like the lefty version of Jackson Jobe. Does that?
Yeah, I could see that.
You see it, and what I mean by that is this guy, Jobe is 6'2", like 210, but he throws like a smaller guy. He just has so much electricity coming out of his arm where like he creates all this tilt and all this momentum in a delivery, and then it just explodes and it can be 97, 98 miles an hour. Macko doesn't have that. So that is a smaller guy who's about 6 foot 180, who's throwing like he's 6 foot 180, who's trying to just kind of maximize what comes out of his arm. And that I worry about just a little bit in terms of throwing his fastball off. Like he can always snap a breaking pitch off from there, but fastball command, like you got to be really timed up if you're going to be moving your body this much. It's a fun comp. Like Macko throws like Jackson Jobe, but Jackson Jobe doesn't have perfect mechanics. Macko doesn't have perfect mechanics. It just feels like he's trying to maximize a small frame. And I just wonder how sustainable that is over the course of 162.
Yeah, it's interesting because, like, to your point, he lands a slider really well. But again, from a shape perspective and stuff perspective, I think his curveball is his best pitch. And it's so depthy that he really does struggle to land it consistently. Like it's 19 inches of vertical break. But I think with he can kind of tug off of it sometimes. There's some effort there, and it doesn't land consistently enough. Opponents hit below 100 against it last year, but he landed for a strike half the time. If that pitch is landing more consistently, I can definitely see it because again, the slider has been good for him. That's a throw that seems to be comfortable. But also, I think there's importance on locating that fastball consistently because this isn't a guy that can have fringy command. It's a guy that if he wants to be a 5-starter, it's got to be average command at least. So he seems like a fringe 5, but I like what he brings to the table stuff wise. I think there's enough there where I'm not going to fully give up on him being a top 15 guy, but he could use that 93 to 95. I think that takes a lot of pressure off of the need to locate.
Yeah.
14, RJ Schreck, very late bloomer. Guy started at Duke, then did his last year at Vanderbilt, where I think he really stood out and solidified himself as that senior college draftee, and he's just been good as a pro, as an outfielder. I think the defense is fine, but he's a bat first guy that I think will get on base at a slightly above average clip and has average game power. So this is someone that I think could be the bulk of the platoon. That for a team that is kind of piecing it together, he might hit righties enough to be that bulk of the platoon because the approach is good, because the end zone contact is good, and he pulls the ball in the air hard pretty consistently. Like, he's going to run into his homers. He's got 7 in 27 games this year. And that was kind of the question last year was, okay, it's kind of a tweener. Is he hit? Is he power? Which one is it? You could palette it a little bit more because the approach was good and always has been good. But I think this year you've seen him give a little bit of that hit for power, but the approach is leveled up even further. And I think that's a fine equation for a corner outfield guy who, again, probably projects best as a bulk platoon bat.
So I like the Baseball Reference pronunciation guide for RJ Schreck. It's just Schreck. Like, instead of the spelling of Shrek's name, which is Schreck, it's just Shrek, like the ogre Schreck. Yeah, it's interesting because it screams well-rounded game. He plays like he's 26 years old in AA, but here he is 24 years old in AA. That's the thing that jumps out to me, where it just kind of seems like that org guy, but he's 2 years younger than you would ever imagine him being. And that's the fun part about this, where it's like, hey, it's this overall well-rounded game. You feel very comfortable with him being a 5 or 6 hitter in your AA lineup, and that's going to be the case when he gets to AAA as well. Like, you just feel very comfortable with him being your 6 hitter. And then if he does make his debut with the Blue Jays, you feel very comfortable with him being your 7 hitter.
Yeah, I mean, this is a dude that hit 182 as a freshman at Duke. Didn't really get a chance to play much as a sophomore because that season was canceled. Then really broke out in 2021, and then took a step back in 2022 in that like senior season, and took that extra year and played well in the SEC. So something must have clicked there at Vandy. It would have helped also being 22 in college, but so I think some people may have taken that with a grain of salt. 2023 gets the Pro Ball with the Mariners and was okay in low A, but then gets ready in the offseason, prepares, kind of shores some things up, and in 2024 really bursts onto the scene because it wasn't just, hey, well, now it's a 23-year-old at high A putting up great numbers, which it was. He got up to AA and continued to put up really good numbers there. And then to see him follow that up now in the early going this year, I think this is a guy that may have just figured things out later in his career. And when you look at the batted ball markers, like, I think there is enough there to be potentially second division regular, but definitely a platoon piece that can run into some homers from the left side. Yeah. Number 13. This is, I'm curious what Blue Jays fans are going to think about this, but I struggle to put him any higher than this. So Orelvis Martinez, who has really, really struggled this year so far. He has homered a few times in the last week or so, but I'm just trying to envision what the big league role is for an Orelvis Martinez. And I just don't really know what it is other than maybe a short platoon infield bat. The PED suspension didn't help, and missing time there didn't help. But I've always been a little bit more skeptical on him. The operation is crazy loud in the box. I think it's super hard to repeat those mechanics and consistently be on time. He's never recognized spin well. It's always been an issue for him. And he's not much of a defender, right? He's going to be a guy that plays a fringy second or fringy third, and it's probably going to be second. So where does this guy provide value? It's going to be running into homers, and that's great. He can do that. But how is he going to run into enough homers with a fringy at best hit tool and below average plate discipline?
Is he running into homers? It's 5 homers in 36 games.
This year, no.
This year, no. Yes. And there's a big difference this year compared to last year.
Yeah, exactly.
Obviously it sucks to change your perspective on a guy because of that, but how much of the breakout was synthetic? Like, this is actually, I think, the clear question that you have to ask. I think Noelvi Marte of the Cincinnati Reds did a really good job of kind of debunking that it was synthetic this year with the way he started the year, but he's also on the shelf right now. But he was on this crazy start to the season for Cincinnati. And it was like, okay, like maybe this is a little real. Maybe this is who Noelvi Marte is. To be honest, like, do we know who Orelvis Martinez is yet in the upper minors? I'm not sure if we know.
And I think Noelvi had better, and I've been skeptical on him too, but like better bat to ball, a little bit better approach. Definitely a lot better approach. Just recognize spin a little bit better. Like Orelvis crushes fastballs, and if you go from the start of last year, he has an OPS of nearly 1,000 against fastballs. But if you go from the start of last year, you'll struggle to find a hitter in the upper minors that was more challenged by sliders. I mean, we're talking about a contact rate against sliders of 53%, a chase rate of nearly 40%, and he just can't lay off of them. And even when he does swing at them, I mean, it's a huge whiff rate there. So that's a challenge. And then it may even be worse against changeups. So if you want him to be this lefty masher, if it's a left-handed starter or left-handed arm that has a changeup, like since the start of 2024, he's hitting 100 against changeups with an in-zone whiff rate of 40%. So you're looking at a guy here that just has minimal adjustability, minimal pitch recognition skills. He has to run into the fastballs. And he has, if you go from the start of 2024, it's 115 games, he's hit 23 home runs. So you do get that, but I just don't know if that's going to work at the big league level. I don't think it's sustainable. It's going to be a guy that maybe hits a few mistakes and can get hot here and there, but I'm not totally ruling him out as he's still a number 13 guy because he's 23 years old. Yeah. And maybe he finally makes a more significant mechanical adjustment. Maybe something clicks. The bat speed pre or post suspension is still very impressive. And the ability to hit velocity is still very impressive. And he hits the ball in the air consistently. But he's going to need to make a leap even, I think, to be a big league role player at this point.
Yeah, I just don't know like when his next opportunity comes with Toronto. I don't know where his next opportunity comes with Toronto. I don't know. It sucks. And like, I don't like analyzing people like this. But yeah, at the end of the day, he might have just cost himself his Blue Jay time.
I mean, and Barger's just passed him. Like
clear cut past him. Yeah.
And I'm still waiting. I'm a Barger lover, and I'm waiting for it to all finally come together. But last 11 games for Barger, by the way, 945 OPS. But Barger plays better third base, can plug into right field, and just is a much, I think, better hitter. So and is hitting the ball harder than Orelvis is. So you get passed by him. You get passed by Kasevich as well, who's totally different kind of player, but one that can actually profile as an everyday guy. And all of a sudden, Orelvis is pretty far down the pecking order.
Yep.
Number 12, Victor Arias. This is a player that I did not really have much on before the dive, and I'm just fascinated by it. It's a little bit of the Pinango conversation here, where the batted ball data is outrageous, but is it going to convert into production? We'll see. This year seems to be the start of that for Arias, who in high A, and by the way, you can play some center field, but in high A right now, he only has one homer. He has 8 extra base hits. He's hitting 300, 380, 81, 410, but he is crushing the baseball. 90th percentile exit velocity of 110 miles per hour. It's a small sample. It's 24 games, but that would be among the most elite in Major League Baseball. Again, small sample, but even if you look at in that 23 game sample, how many balls he's hit 105 plus miles per hour? 17 of them. There's some sellout to the pull side, but this is elite bat speed and a guy that definitely has a bit more loft than Pinango, probably not as adept bat to ball wise just yet, but you have a guy that could potentially play center field, who's flashing exit velocities north of 110 semi-frequently, and he's still just 21 years old. I'm fascinated. I want to see what could potentially be here. He's definitely worth a roll of the dice.
Did he just come off the IL? Like I see that he's on the IL right now, but he might have
No,
popped
he's
up.
been on it since the 7th.
He's been on it since the 7th. Okay. No, I mean it's interesting just kind of looking at the numbers here, and this is still a very young guy who's repeating. I guess you can't call it repeating when it was only 2 weeks in Vancouver last year, but he's back in Vancouver and it looks good, man. And like this guy keeps the Ks in check too. He's got some power with lack of strikeout. Like this is fun. This is a decent profile.
Yeah, and again, he sells out for the poll, so that could result in things getting exposed at Double A. But when you
But they haven't yet.
And when you're 5'9", like 200 pounds, and you can get off just bat speed and EVs like that, I'm gonna roll the dice and see what you can do there. Especially when like he may move to a corner where it'll be a solid corner, but especially when you can potentially plug into center field. He's got to get a little bit more loft in that swing consistently, though. But I mean, it's an average exit velocity of 93 miles per hour this year. Again, I know it's only 113 plate appearances, but I mean, he's hitting the ball really, really hard. So just a fun name to monitor there.
Love it.
Number 11, Johnny King. Very fascinating arm, and another arm from this 2024 class. They did a good job, man, and just stockpiling, I think, a bunch of intrigue and kind of different pitchers of different archetypes, because we're going to get to the other two. But when you look at Johnny King, definitely some reliever risk here. But we're talking about a guy that I can get behind a pitching prospect with reliever risk when it's a lefty who could potentially have a double plus fastball.
Oh, yeah.
So that's the fun part. You also have time to try to develop him. He's 18 years old still, so young for the class. He won't be 19 for a few months. But it's a fastball that averages mid-90s with run and ride, like life to it. And then a big breaking curveball that he needs to just learn how to land for a strike. And then he's still learning how to throw the changeup, but it's flashed some good shape. He's got stuff for sure. So it's just a matter of, will he be able to throw enough strikes? We'll have to wait and see. But I mean, that fastball alone from the left side at 18 years old, that's a borderline top 10 prospect.
Do I see 17 and 15 correctly from like a 5'6" release? Like 17 inches or maybe 18 inches of vert.
18. Yeah, you are seeing that correctly, which that means run and ride. Like,
yeah.
That's taking flight.
Yeah. The thing, if it was like 15 and 15, that's one thing because like it just kind of drifts. But like the fact that it's 18 and 15 is crazy. And again, from a below average release.
From the low release too. If it was the 15 and 15 from a high release, like
dead
then
zone.
It's like, or even 17 and 16 from a high release. But when it's 18 and 15 from a low release, that run and ride, to your point, is going to play.
It's going to take off, man. And that's what he's doing right now. He also has a really clean delivery for a guy that's 18 years old. I mean, like, it's super simple, fun to watch. He stacks into that back leg and he just fires. And it's clearly like a very athletic throw from him. And you feel like he can find consistency with that curveball too and just snap it off. And that's what you got. The third pitch should be something that comes along fairly quickly with that delivery too, because he's working straight down on the hill. You feel like you can probably find some sort of changeup or split. Fastball curveball right now is good.
That's what I was going to ask you, because I was looking at the delivery and like, there's a little bit of that, like that front shoulder leans into it pretty hard and he'll tug a bit, but like it does seem athletic. And I was going to ask, like, is it more of just the baby draft thing for an 18-year-old 6'3" lefty than like a delivery that you think may not be conducive to throwing more strikes? Because overall, I mean, again, I agree. I think he moves really well on the mound, and it just seems to be more of like a timing of his arm, and just sometimes it lags behind. And again, kind of the baby draft thing for an 18-year-old.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, like this delivery is not one that makes you think that a pronating pitch is going to be hard. Like it's just a matter of finding the grip, and it could be a split. It could be a change. It could be like you could circle it. You could just Bugs Bunny it. Like there are a bunch of different ways that you can go with that pitch that isn't your fastball or curveball. I also feel like a cutter could fit into this arsenal really well with that delivery.
Yeah, absolutely. And then again, if none of it comes together, you put that guy in a one of these.
Cool.
He might throw 99 from the left side by the time he's 21. And
then he gets up to 20 vert and he's Vesia.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a great arm to add into the fold when you have the other two righties who look like they're going to be able to slot into a rotation, very likely. Number 10. Feels weird still talking about this guy. I feel like he's got to graduate soon, but he's also still quite young. Jonatan Clase. Very fun just path of development for him. And he was traded for Jimmy Garcia at the 2024 deadline. He's been productive everywhere you look, but it's a different kind of productive now. And he's with the big league team right now. He'll probably be graduating somewhat soon. He has changed things this year, and I actually think it's better for him long term. Remember talking about him before and how he was an outslug the EVs guy because crazy loft to the swing, and he was selling out for pull side lift from both sides of the plate. That probably wasn't going to be an identity that was going to work for him because you put him in an environment maybe where it is a little bit harder to just backspin homers to the pull side. That can affect him. And also, if you're not getting to that power consistently in games, you're punting 70 grade speed here. And that's the biggest thing. He is a burner. It is comfortably 70 grade speed. So he should be a guy that's just trying to spray the ball over the field and lean into the bat to ball. The bat to ball is improved now that he's made his swing path more level, but also he hasn't hit a home run yet this year. I think that's a good exchange at this point. I would rather his swing decisions have been better, and I'd rather have a guy here that's just going to spray the ball over the yard, use the wheels, and clearly see the ball better now that he's not trying to cheat and yank and catch it out front. He also got rid of that bob and hitch. Like there was a lot going on. I wouldn't say get rid of, he toned it down. So I think that's helping too. But ultimately, he's not a great center fielder. He's passable out there. He's more of a speed makes up for my jumps guy. Yeah. So it's a guy that can play a solid corner, can plug into center. And then that archetype, and it can be a menace on the base paths, that archetype, I want you spraying the ball. Nothing pisses me off more than kind of a guy that's not going to get to a ton of power that flies and hits the ball in the air a ton. Like This is the exception where it's like, I don't care about your launch angle. I don't care about whatever. Like just use your wheels.
Yeah. There are very few guys in minor league baseball right now that have 106 plate appearances and just one RBI. That's kind of the thing that jumps out to me. It's like, this guy's just not driving runs at all. It's a little weird that the power is just not eating, but he does have 15 bags in 17 attempts through 27 games. So like, if it's an identity shift, that's fine. Problem is you're just a fourth outfielder at that point with the identity shift, and that's okay. Like a fourth outfielder can absolutely be the number 10 prospect in this system.
Well, and frankly, I think at the time of the trade, there were probably people within, and this is just speculation, especially when you're just looking at the trade itself, but also just the other side of things is I do know like general industry perception was kind of skewing towards him maybe not even being that fourth outfielder. Like, that fourth outfielder is a good piece to have. Yeah. I think at points when he was selling out for the lift and whiffing more, and you looked at the defense not being as good as it should be in center, I think he may have been looking more like that fifth outfielder. So I think him being more contact oriented and walking more is going to make it easier to see that fourth outfielder type. And he seems to be more efficient than ever this year on the stolen base department, which is another thing that I think he's leaned into is like, okay, how am I going to solidify a big league role for myself? I think leaning into that speed the way that he has is the way to do it. And as a switch hitter, that's a great guy to have on your bench. Switch hitter who can play all three outfield spots, who absolutely motors and now gives you better ABs. I don't care about the slash line as much with those types of guys. I just want good ABs because when you bring a guy off the bench, you want to see some pitches. You want to put some pressure on the defense, and that's exactly what Clase can do. But I still think you can dream on a second division regular because he's 22 still. Things could still click for him at the big league level after a year or two.
It's a second division regular in the 8-hole, and that's okay. Like,
that's fine.
8 hitter in the big leagues, you're good. You get paid the same. Like, you get paid the same as Paul Skeens right now. What, $800,000?
Yeah. Yeah. And at the same time, you can, those are the guys that keep you afloat when guys go down. And then on a playoff roster, those are the guys that can just do those between the margins things. And that one WAR can be huge for you. Number 9, unfortunately, Jake Bloss just went down with Tommy John surgery. I was wondering if something was up just because the stuff was just looking so different. It just wasn't, it seemed like the ball just wasn't coming out of his hand the same way. That's always a horrible feeling when you're looking at the TrackMan data and you're like, I hope he's like playing around with something and not, dealing with something. And unfortunately, Bloss is dealing with something. He was traded with Joey Loperfido and Will Wagner in that Yusei Kikuchi trade from the Astros. Great get. in that deal. And I know that the trade is not aging great right now, given if you checked in at the end of last year, Will Wagner was the best hitter in the world. Joey Loperfido had a little bit more prospect intrigue, and Bloss was throwing the ball a bit better. But I still think that it was a pretty decent return, and I do still believe in Bloss and Loperfido becoming some sort of a big league role player, and even Wagner as a depth bat at some point. But with Bloss, I was struggling to see the exact way that he fully sticks as anything more than a 5, because the 4-seamer is good, and it's probably his best pitch. It's not great. The slider is good, and those are the 2 pitches that I think are comfortably big league offerings. But he was throwing a cutter in 2024. I don't know why he scrapped that this year. I really liked that cutter. It was really effective for him. Scrapped it. Started throwing the curveball and changeup more. Those pitches weren't great for him this year. Again, take some of the results with a grain of salt, because clearly he was dealing with something. But that's where it's like, you need the third pitch, and the command is kind of fringy. Now we'll have to just wait and see what it looks like when he comes back. But I did see at least a swingman with that fastball slider combination. There's still that chance for a good 5, though. And he flashed even number 4 upside at points with the Astros, but it just was kind of inconsistent.
I wonder if he couldn't feel the cutter at all in spring training and said, you know what, time to scrap it. I feel like you've got enough time, and the Blue Jays are smart with arsenals and all that stuff. They'll figure out the best way to use Jake Bloss and just figure out what works and what doesn't.
Yeah, and it just sucks that now you got to wait, a year plus to get there. But it's another. It's kind of like the COVID thing that we talked about, where it put a pause for so many players to look at their mechanics or look at their stuff, whether it's a hitter, or pitcher, or whatever. Tommy John does do that for guys that were kind of struggling up to that point, where you can just sit down as you're recovering, think about it, and then when you get back and start throwing again, once you're cleared to throw, all the different throws, that's where you have so much time to tinker where you wouldn't have before, and kind of see what works best for you. So I'm hoping that Bloss comes out of this better. He's got the body to eat innings. He's 6'3", 225. I do like the delivery. And I do think ultimately he can be that innings eating 5. And I think that's what he will be when he comes back.
Yeah. The only difference between COVID and TJ is obviously during COVID you can throw, and during TJ you can't throw.
But you have probably 6 months where you are throwing and, can't throw in an actual game.
Exactly. So yeah, we'll see. And it is weird because it feels like every throw is measured now. There's no touch and feel for guys that are coming back from this. And I wish there was, but there just isn't.
Yeah. And it'll be interesting to see how they monitor him and everything. But at the very least, you have a swing man here, which again, I mean, you can't have enough of those, especially with the way things have been for the Blue Jays on that side of things for the last couple of years. Yeah. Another guy that has been banged up, and it sucks because when I saw him in the spring breakout game, it's like, oh man, he might break out this year. Actually, Kendry Rojas, left-hander, had a really nice year last year, but he's dealt with his fair share of injuries as well. Nothing super significant, but shoulder issue. I think if that cost him a couple months of the 2024 season, but then he turned in really impressive results in high A, and then went to the AFL, and I liked what I saw from him there. It's a decent 3-pitch mix. You have an average heater that, again, in the spring breakout game, looked like it'd be above average slider and an average changeup and potentially average command. There's another guy that just screams 5-starter for you, but he's younger as a 6'3" lefty. Think you could maybe dream on a little bit more there. And in the spring breakout game, because the fastball is normally averaged about 92 to 94, he'll grab a 5. Spring breakout, I understand it was 2 innings, but he averaged 96.5, and then we didn't see him again. So if he's anywhere up a tick or 2, then I mean that is scary, because he does have just a nice delivery. There's some built-in deception. The end zone whiff last year was great for him, and he just turned in good numbers and he fills up the zone.
You going to New Zealand? It seems like round trip starts as low as $850.
Those ads are firing up there.
That's crazy. Were you entertaining a New Zealand trip?
I wasn't. I don't know why I'm getting served those ads on our site, but I would love to go to New Zealand. But no,
that would be cool. I could also appreciate a trip to Vancouver. Vancouver is my single favorite city on earth. I love Vancouver.
Very cool spot.
So Kendry Rojas, it would be fun to go out there and check him out. But it is cool. You have this lefty in the fire of what you're doing right now in the minor leagues, and obviously, like, it feels like every organization in Major League Baseball is just stockpiled with pitchability righties. It's kind of fun to have that pitchability lefty thrown in there. So it's
especially in this system.
yeah, especially in this system where you're just waiting to see what happens after the 30-somethings leave, right? Like after Scherzer and Gosman are out of this fold. When you look at this big league rotation, there's really not very many pieces that you close your eyes and see 5 years from now in there, like maybe an older Barrios, but it's fun to just kind of stockpile those possible 5 starters.
And this is the guy I feel most confident about, and that's why he's at 8. And you have a little bit more ceiling. The good news is the injury that he's out with right now, I think is like a core issue or something like that, like abdominal issue. So it's not his arm. And again, when you watch his delivery, it's pretty smooth. With again that built-in deception that helps him get some in-zone whiff there. And I think that is enough to be able to be that solid 5 starter. But if he ticks up, he's still just 22. He has some room for, I think, some more velo potentially. We may have seen that. If he's 94 when he comes back, he could have number 4 starter upside.
Yeah.
We're going to get to number 7, which is Landon Maroudis in a moment. Before that, our last break. All right, Maroudis was a popular breakout candidate last year going into the season, and I get it because he was showing some exciting stuff at the complex and just I think during spring training on the backfields before. So there was a lot of buzz around him. He came out looking good stuff-wise, and then quickly, unfortunately, went down with an arm issue and got, I believe, the internal brace. Maroudis, good athlete, another one of those like kind of converted shortstop guys out of high school where it's like, okay, you can dream on it and see what can be here. But he has not fully looked like himself in his first 3 outings off of the surgery since he's started to just rehab here at the complex. He looked good in the first one. The velo dropped a little bit in the second one. And then the third one, his velo was down a good bit. And he only got 1 out and he walked 4. That was 5 days ago. So I'm interested to see if he throws again this week or if they give him some time to try to get right. But when Maroudis was getting the buzz going for him, his fastball was sitting 93, 95. It was a really athletic throw. His breaking balls looked pretty good. And you could also dream on the changeup a little bit. It's just really tough to figure out exactly where he sits right now because the velo is diminished since he's first come back. And you're just seeing a guy still trying to feel things out. And frankly, we just haven't seen much of him. We saw 3 starts before he went down, and now we're just seeing him rehab.
Here's what really upsets me. There are 2 Calvary Christians in the state of Florida.
Mm-hmm.
Landon Maroudis went to Calvary Christian High School in Clearwater. Andrew Painter went to Calvary Christian Academy.
Yes.
In
Fort Lauderdale.
Yep. Yeah, like I'm a little confused here. So I was like, oh, same school as Andrew Painter. I wonder if they were in the same rotation. No, they just went to 2 different Calvary Christians. Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
I remember liking him at time of draft, but to your point, there's just been nothing to look at. It's 16 1/3 innings in his pro career.
I would say just the main thing to look at is just the velocity. Hopefully he's building back up and healthy, but again, last time out, not very good. But when we saw him going into the season last year, it was exciting and looked really sharp. So it's just a wait and see, but if it all clicks, you have potentially 4 average pitches here and a fastball that could be closer to above average. So it is just more of a wait and see game for Maroudis. Yeah. Number 6 is Alan Roden, whose career is over because he wasn't good in his big league debut. So could we just move on?
Yes. Number 5.
It's so funny, dude, because I see people just so quickly jump off the train of a player like that you were so excited about as a prospect, and then, oh no, he didn't immediately excel at the highest level of baseball in the world. Maybe we were wrong about him. First of all, he didn't even really get his doors blown off. It was just one of those where just hit balls at guys a lot. And then it was one of those slumps that just mounted and mounted and mounted and mounted. And he needed to just get sent back to AAA to reset. But the outfielder since being sent back to AAA, by the way, 9 games, 366, 422, 585 slash line. He's striking out 11% of the time. He's walking 9% of the time. He's already launched 2 homers. My thing with Roden, and the reason why I really like him, is the glove is great. And I think we saw that at the big league level, where this is definitely a guy that can plug in a center. This is a guy that will play a good corner, and he's got a good arm. Now, the swing is a little grooved for pull side lift, and there's a lot of moving parts, but he makes consistent contact within the zone. There's not as much adjustability, but I don't think he needs a ton of it. I still think there's very clearly an above average hit tool here. The plate discipline held him back. He didn't recognize stuff as well at the big league level. We'll see if that gets better. But if he's above average hit, fringy power, and above average defense in a corner, who can play center, this is at worst a fourth outfielder, but a guy that I do think is, a solid, maybe an average regular in a corner that could be like a 2-WAR guy.
One quick thing, and I do not want to compare these two because the other was the number one prospect in baseball at one time and a number one overall pick, but just remember how many people fell off the Jackson Holiday bandwagon last year. And like, if you haven't taken a peek at Holiday's numbers, I don't blame you because the Orioles have been really brutal, but Jackson Holiday's hitting 270 with a 775 OPS right now. And people aren't paying attention because he had a rough start to his pro career.
Yeah.
Like, if I could put together a team of guys that struggled at the outset of their major league career, I'd have an all-star team. Alan Roden is probably not cracking that roster, but at a certain point, did you feel like he was a 60 grade hitter?
Yes, I thought he could have been there. I think if you asked me last year, I think you could have talked me into him being a 60 grade hitter because it was 92% in zone contact.
Yeah.
But the more I watch him at AAA and more even at the big league level, and this is not me knocking him down because of the struggles at the big league level, I just saw how pull dependent it is. And I just think it's really, really hard to be a clear plus hitter when you're that pull dependent, when you're kind of out and around the ball a fair amount. Like, it's going to be hard to hit 290. Yeah. But I do think because of how consistent the bat to ball is within the zone, he's still comfortably an above average hitter.
Yeah.
And then the power, that's a big thing too. It was below average power before last year. He has added more power last year when he, and it is come at the expense of the hit maybe a little bit, but I think it's been a fair enough exchange where he's actually started to hit the ball harder as well as getting into some more slug. And you're seeing the EVs jump up a little bit too. So I think you can dream on 15 homers. If there's above average hit there and he's playing above average defense in a corner, that is a 2, maybe even the best season 3-win player. But I think he ends up settling in as like a 1.5, 2-win player. And again, that's a good second division regular, or if the rest of your team's good, that's a fine guy to have in your lineup who's I think not going to hurt you ever.
I thought at one point, just based on like the stats and the data points, he was like a 65 grade hitter and a 35 grade power guy, but I kind of like this version a little bit better.
I wholeheartedly agree. That's literally where I probably would have been last year. But then again, you see the swing path, and it's amazing how you can get away with so many more things in the minor leagues where you can sell out for pull, but if you have a good feel for the barrel, you can still run a 92% in zone contact rate. But yeah, I think this was a good exchange because I think acknowledging that the hit would probably degrade a little bit at the big league level, you might as well find ways to get into that power more. And he has done just that. Yeah. Number 5. I think it's Khal Stephen, by the way, not Stephen.
Khal Stephen.
Khal Stephen looks like the second of 2 good picks by the Jays. Just right-handers who I think can move through the minor leagues pretty quickly. And Stephen Price should have been assigned straight to high A, but him and Yesavage, they started at low A. I'm sure there was some reasons behind that, honestly, just to get those guys starting their season at the complex, warm weather. You're throwing with literally the Dunedin spring training complex right there for you, more eyes on you, makes sense. But I was really impressed with Stephen because the stuff may not be as good as Yesavage, but it's just like short arm delivery, fills up the zone consistently, 69% strike rate. The 4-seamer's got above average carry. It's 92 to 94. Will grab a 5. And the splitter is his best pitch off of that. And I actually like the splitter a lot. The slider, I'm interested to see how it plays against better competition, but he commands it so well. It's just 3 decent pitches with a curveball that'll mix in as a taste breaker and great command. Like that's going to work.
He's a big boy that throws like a big boy. I really enjoyed this video dive into him because like he just looks stronger than literally everybody else. And I think that's going to be the case when he gets to high A too. And I think that's going to be the case when he gets to double A. He is not going to meet his match in the minor leagues, I think, until he gets to triple A. And that should be a really exciting thing for Blue Jays fans here because they see a guy that's just bigger and better than everybody else right now. And it's fun to see that from a young guy.
Does he not also kind of scream innings eater to you?
He totally does, because he's a big guy and because like it's so clean and he pounds the zone with a bunch of different things. I like this mix and match big guy power stuff. It's like Lance Lynn's the gold standard of that, just a bunch of stuff, big guy pound the zone. But it's almost like the best version of Kyle Gibson. Like that's what I like from him.
I love the way he works down the mound too. Like
Yeah.
he gets above average extension, but it's just downhill kind of aspect where the shoulders are almost tilted down, and it works really well with his arm path because it's that short arm kind of over the top, and it just looks like it's perfect for him. It's prime for him to be able to just spin the ball, very true, right, and have a great spin efficiency as well on that four seamer, which has allowed him to. It is a higher release technically because he's a tall guy that's kind of throwing from that directly over the top, but he short arms it to keep it still from being like a Trey Yesavage 7-foot release. And he's getting really good carry on the heater. So when you're getting that above average carry and he's touching still, like he's had some outings where he's touched 96. So he's able to run the velo up when he needs to. And I just think it stays so true with the way that he's able to maintain direction and kind of work downhill and just spin that ball. And then you have the splitter straight off of that. That's nasty. And I think those two pitches alone are really going to help, mixing in the slider too. And then just the command in general. I think you can look at a four starter here at 6'4", 220, who can just throw a ton of innings for you. The one thing I'm just waiting to see here is like, how does that stuff play against AA competition?
I think
it'll be fun to monitor.
I think he's going to get through high A and AA starts where he's really only using the fastball split. Like I think he can do that no problem, and he'll throw the slider or cutter because he has to.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like I don't know, it's really interesting.
I'm definitely excited to see him throw in AA at some point this year. But by the way, fastball's average 20 inches of vert. It's a 6'1" release height, so it's not even that high. Like that's barely above big league average. So he's getting life, and that sets everything else up.
Yeah.
Josh Kasevich. He is a solid player, man. And it's funny because I got to update the what round he was drafted in there. But Kasevich, he's that hit tool first guy for sure. But what was fascinating to me in the dive, and he's hurt right now, he should be back in hopefully the next few weeks, was, okay, you got elite contact rates, 94% in the zone. That's one of the better figures in the entire minor leagues. But he hits the ball harder than you'd expect. It is kind of all on the ground. It's kind of it's Jacob Wilson adjacent. Now he's not going to be that good, obviously. Wilson just has a feel to spray line drives like few can.
If you were to slap a hit grade on Jacob Wilson right now, what would it be?
I hate 75. It doesn't really exist, but 80 would be Arias, right? So like Wilson's got to be 70 plus. It's 70.
Yeah, but Wilson's kind of there.
Yeah, I guess it's 80. It's because the batting average is right there. He's an 80 hitter.
Wow.
So
cool.
Kasevich is like a 65. You could maybe say 70. The thing with Kasevich is it's going to be on the ground a fair amount, but that's generally the case with guys that, are going to make that much contact. But when you look at what he did last year, 297, 349, 385 slash lines, you're like, okay, where's the slug? Hard hit rate of 46%. That's phenomenal. It's all on the ground. But that's okay, because that's going to help him maintain a higher BABIP. And he had a 327 BABIP because he hits the ball hard. So if you are spraying the ball to all fields, but it is on the ground a little bit more, but you're never missing in the zone, 94% in zone contact, and you're not chasing that much, 23% chase. I think this guy probably got a little bit unlucky last year. I think he's only going to get better and better. Yeah, he could find a little bit more elevation. Like that would be good. And that would probably help boost the OPS. But when you know he's not going to punch, and you know he's going to demonstrate a good approach, and he actually hits the ball harder than you'd expect.
Every big inning they've had this week.
I really like what he's got going on here. And then you look at the defense.
He lifts a high fly ball to deep left field. Sprinting back, Liberato onto the track, onto the wall. It's gone. And Kasevich leaves the yard to put the Bisons in front 1-0 here in the second.
And he's not going to slug.
A towering shot to deep left center field.
He got 6 homers last year.
He got just enough
In terms of offensive profile, he's exactly what I think Alan Roden's believers thought Alan Roden was last year, right? 65 hit, 35 power.
Put the Bisons in front.
But the shortstop, it profiles so much better as a shortstop than it does a center fielder or a right fielder.
Yes.
Like, it's unbelievable. So that's why Kasevich gets the nod over a guy like Alan Roden, because
no doubt,
they're very similar offensive profiles, but one of them plays shortstop.
Yeah, and like you get an above average corner, I'll take the solid shortstop for sure, and that's what you get with the Kasevich. But like also, I think Kasevich's like swing. You look at it and you say, okay, he's going to consistently be on time. Yeah. It's very simple operation there, and also the EVs just lend me like some more optimism there. Like, when you are getting to 95 plus half the time, you're going to be in a pretty good spot when you're also making contact 94% of the time in the zone. So I just feel like he's primed to have that incredibly high floor.
Yeah.
Number 3, Trey Yesavage, who also got the bump up to high A with Khal Stephen. Yesavage was just too good for low A as well. And that was clear. I think it was the same conversation with Stephen. They wanted to have him start his pro career at the complex, but I mean, he struck out the world in low A, and it's a very high release. It's, I think, it would be the highest release in Major League Baseball.
It's ahead of Pivetta. Yeah.
Yep. And Verlander, but it's also a crazy amount of vert, and it's also ridiculously good stuff. It's funny because when I look at like other scouting reports on Yesavage as an amateur, I feel like the splitter was consistently underrated for him. The splitter became an asset for him in his draft year, and especially working off of a fastball that gets 21 vert, albeit from a really, really high release point, but 21 verts at that tipping point, like, doesn't even matter how high you're releasing it, it's 21 vert. You have that splitter just diving straight off of it from this over-the-top release point, really hard to pick up. It was dominant in 2024, and it's been dominant this year. Hitters are 2 for 28 against it this season. And he's landed it for a strike at a 64% clip. Now he's got that gyro slider as well, which is a really, really, really good pitch. But yeah, you're looking at 3 offerings here that are above average. I think that splitter could be plus, and the command looks really good out of the gate. It's a little bit easier said than done when, or it's a little bit easier to throw strikes when you're in low A and those hitters just aren't touching anything. So we'll see if he can maintain that in high A. But early returns, 68% strike rate.
What was the injury? What was the physical for Yesavage that was the issue?
So I don't know if it had to do with that collapsed lung situation.
It's bizarre, by the way. If you don't know about that collapsed lung situation, he was like doing dry needling. Like it was pretty much like a treatment thing, like needling. And then Cliff Godwin, his coach at East Carolina, said just a little chest discomfort, a collapsed lung. Like he was hospitalized with a collapsed lung because of dry needling. But
how big are those needles?
What? I have no idea.
Yeah, it's crazy.
He was there for 2 nights. That was in May. But I feel like there were. Well, I mean, he was a free faller in the draft, and I just don't really understand why.
I think there must have been something with the arm as well. I'm guessing. I don't know. I haven't heard anything, but like the fact that they also wanted to keep him in Dunedin in the warm weather and throwing close to home there. But it also just might be their standard procedure. I'd be surprised if a dry needling like lung issue like was enough to make him free fall. So maybe there was something with the medicals. Regardless, he looks healthy and strong this year so far. And I mean, the fastball is sitting 94.3 miles per hour and 70% strike rate on that. And he's been holding that velo going 5-6 innings in these starts. He's already punched out 10, 8, 7, 12. So again, it was low A, but a 43% strikeout rate's 43% strikeout rate. And the 2 secondaries working so well vertically off of a 4-seamer that works well vertically, just riding, gets a 51% ground ball rate as well. So he's blending the ground ball with the whiff. I think he's going to be susceptible to the long ball with the fastball at points. So it's going to be interesting to see how he can manage that. But Yesavage is a guy that I think is built to fly through the minor leagues, and it's very high probability 4-starter, but you could dream on a 3 with this stuff, but I think he's going to be a really strong 4.
He can be a 4 as soon as, I mean, you've got next year. I'm totally with you. He can be a 4 by the beginning of next year.
I think they're going to push him quickly. I don't think he spends much time in high A if he's throwing well. And I think he could even break camp with them next year if they need a starter.
Wow.
Number 2, Ricky Tiedemann. It's so difficult to rank a guy like this because we haven't really seen him throw much. But this is a similar story where I'm just hoping that Tiedemann's list of ailments were, maybe to do with him not getting the Tommy John surgery that he probably needed for a while. And I'm hoping that now with that year and a half off, getting that rectified, he can come back and throw the healthiest he has thrown since he was drafted in 2021, having only thrown 140 innings since then. So that's what I'm hoping for, because when he's healthy, it's a plus fastball, it's a plus slider, and it's a plus changeup. Now, the command, it hasn't been great, so it'll be interesting to see how he comes back off of TJ. But even if the command is fringy, this is a guy that with 3+ pitches can be a lights out starter.
Yeah. I really don't have anything. I'm sorry. He's invisible.
Yeah.
He's not on the hill. Really hasn't been on the hill. I hope he comes back and is nasty. It sucks. Like every time I see this guy's name, I just think about not what could have been, like, because I reserved that for Daniel Espino.
Yeah.
But Tiedemann, I just look at it and I'm like, there's so much untapped potential here. Like you were so close, and you just haven't been there yet.
Still 22.
I know, but
damn. I mean, if he comes back and doesn't look great off of the TJ, like doesn't look like himself, then
bullpen city population Ricky, yeah,
which could be great there too. But just a reminder, in 2022, 4-seamer opponents hit 150, changeup opponents hit 170, slider opponents hit 130. Like it was just domination with those 3 pitches, and that's who he can be.
Yeah.
Number 1, Arjun Nimmala, who, I mean, you got to feel great if you're a Blue Jays fan, just to, with all the arms that they've taken in the last few years, and just the way things have kind of gone from a health perspective as well. And then some of the frustrations with an Orelvis and just maybe not getting everything you want out of some of your position players and some of those prospects.
Yeah.
Nimmala looked out of the gate. I'm sure fans are like, oh no, this may not be good. And then you look at what he has been basically since he came off the dev list, and he has been one of the more exciting teenage prospects in baseball. He's no doubt going to stick it short. I think he's going to be an above average glove there. The power is above average, and he's hitting the ball even harder than ever now. And the hit tool was always going to be fringy, but now it looks like he has gotten it to a point where you can see him being capable of hitting enough. And the approach has gotten much better since he's made those adjustments. If he's above average power with fringy hit, above average plate discipline, above average run, and above average defense at shortstop, that is a really solid everyday shortstop.
Dude, I mean, just looking at like what he's done overall this year, like I thought he was going to punch out all the time based on what he did last year, and that's just not the case. It's a 20% K rate.
Jumping to high A.
It's a 20% K rate, and he's walking 10% of the time. He's got a 133 WRC plus. And it's cool, like seeing him right the ship last year in low A after coming off the dev list. What do you think his 90-game WRC plus was in minor league baseball last year? It was a trip to the dev list in there.
Yeah, he was still probably finished above average, right? It would have been 110?
126.
Wow, it's better than I thought.
He was a legit good hitter in a season that included a trip to the development list.
Yeah. And then even better, since coming off the dev list, it's been an 86-game sample dating back to June 27th. He is /268, 336, 536 with 19 homers in 86 games, 25 doubles, 5 triples.
19 homers in 86 games when you're playing the bulk of that time in Dunedin, Florida is crazy.
And then 25 doubles?
Yeah.
Like that's 48 extra base hits or 49 extra base hits.
In 90 games?
In 86 games.
Yeah, dude.
Cut the strikeout rate to 26% in that span. He's elevating so consistently. Clearly, the biggest shift I saw from the time leaving the dev list was still being able to pull the ball in the air, and that's where his swing still kind of grew for it, but without it taking him off the sliders now, where he was able to stay on spin. He was able to recognize better. He's able to use the whole field more when he needs it, and then picking his spots a bit better to kind of go to that pull side lift, because he is going to be a guy that gets his slug from doing that. The EVs aren't 108, or 109 all the time, but they are above average, and he does flash those. I think we've seen him this year now, and I think he will get to that point. And that's the exciting part. Is like he may tap into plus power. I wouldn't rule out plus power because he's 19 and there's still room for strength there. But you're seeing that he's a guy that can outslug the EVs. But already now, like we're seeing him flash higher end exit velocities with a better hit tool, with a strikeout rate that's dwindled down. And he's going to give you value in other ways because he can pick it at shortstop. So this is should be a consensus top 100 guy now, and should be a guy that's climbing up list pretty quickly, because to do what he did from going to, remember, as you said, they put him on the dev list in low A because he was striking out too much. Now in high A, he's not striking out much at all and walking more. It's everything you want to see from Nimmala, who is always going to be a little bit of a project. And it looks like he's less of a project and more of just a higher floor guy now that, again, it still is a little bit of risk with the end zone whiff, but I think he's chipping away at that very quickly.
He is a top blank prospect in baseball, the update.
Ooh, that's tough because it's going to look a lot different in the update on June 1st. But I would say, he's definitely top 60.
Top 60. I was gonna say like top 70. I felt like it was a little bit of a stretch, but I like it. Top 60.
Definitely top 70. But might push into that top 60. Cool. We got some other shortstops popping up though. You got Lombard is going to be in there. Franklin Arias is going to be in there. A lot of AL East guys. There's a lot of fun shortstops in
is
that
Volpe
AL East
still in there?
Volpe? Yeah. He's still developing. Oh, well, no, if you ask Yankees fans, he wouldn't even be a top 100 prospect now if he was still in the minors.
He's so
they hate four war shortstops, which I
hate him. Hate 2020 guys with a Gold Glove in their rookie year.
Yeah, it's really disappointing.
Garbage.
That'll do it for this episode. Hope you all enjoyed it. We will continue to churn through the last few team top prospect lists here. And again, just keep an eye out for that top 100 update on June 1st. I will be giving people kind of sneak peeks at that side of things in the Discord. So be sure to join that. That link is in the episode description. We will probably do the Padres top prospects next. So keep an eye out for that. I've been enjoying Cobb Hightower. It's been cool to watch him.
Cool.
But yeah, just a reminder to join that Discord. Would love to have you in there. And we will talk prospects with you later this week.